So we're gonna walk. So the second half, not the second half, the second part of today will be walking you through some examples. And this is like you on the training wheel for the bike. I'm gonna walk you through the systematic nomenclature today, and then the last part of the class, I will basically have you on two wheels on your own and see if you understand anything I said at all. So, all right. So I'm gonna start with this fictional family of plants called Dendrogrammaceae, which is you've seen before. I have you guys do the cladistic example with these plants, and you like, even though you have different ideas, different characters you use, you end up with the same grouping. So people will come up with this fictional plant, also come up with the official name for them. Surprisingly, we have no other things to do in our life. So they categorize into three genera. So Bimania, Conquistia, and Hitchcockia, named after famous botanists back in the day. And all these three genera named by this guy named Wagner in different years, in 1947, 1949, and 1955. So, and each genera was given a different name. For example, this one, Bimania, together, they would put together because they have long stamen, right? So they put in the same genus. And there's different names, multiflora, multi come from multiple, and they might have multiple flora. This one come from ruby flora. Ruby means red, so red flowers. And similar thing happened in Conquistia. Conquistia doesn't have long stamen, so they categorize in another genus. And this one is also multiflora because multiple flowers. And this one uniflora, you mean one, so one flower. So straightforward name. And each name was coined at different time and by different people. Some by Wagner, some by Clark. And Wagner found the white flower species in 1949, and he's like, that does not fit with the previous two genera, so he named a new thing called Hitchcockia, that's different genus. So this is based on morphology only, like purely morphology. And then this guy Jimmy Triplett, he is a PhD student. He did the phylogeny of this group just like what we did. He sampled chloroplasts, and we found that Bimania is a pretty good genus, is right within, but the problem again here is that Conquistia is paraphyletic, right? And that's not good. I mean, Bimania can be its own thing, right? It's no problems. But what you're gonna do with Conquistia, you can go crazy. You can be splitters, right? You can have these two species of Conquistia become two different genuses, right? But then you could add one more genus into the system, which is crazy. But then Triplet here decided, you know what? I'm going to be a lumper here. I'm going to combine everything together. I'm going to call this whole thing Bimania. He decided that. So we're going to learn like how he does that. So first of all, so this is a list question I'm going to walk you through. So why is Bimania is the correct generic name? So remember, we have two candidates here, right? We have Bimania. You can be Bimania. Everything can be Bimania. Or everything can be Conquistia. So why did he pick Bimania over Conquistia? The answer, you have to go back to these pictures, right? So Bimania was named by Wagner in 1947 and Conquistia by the same guy in 1955. So I'm going to write it down here, 1947, 1955. Which one get the priorities? The one with the order name, right? So this one get priority. Just like Ursus and Heliactos before, just like two bears. Then Conquistia is now merged with Bimania. And I mean, when they merge, right? I mean, if this day, what happened is that they combine the name, right? They're like, oh, now Bimania Conquistia together. You like hyphenated it, like Bimania Conquistia, like a new bigger family. Or I just learned that another bank, Thai Military Bank (TMB), now merged with Thanachart Bank, is now TTB. So Thai Military Thanachart, so weird name, Thai Thanachart Bank. I just learned that a couple of weeks ago because now my application on my phone changed to TTB, not TMB anymore. So they just combine name like that. But that doesn't work with taxonomy. You have to pick the oldest available name, the priority. So now everything become Bimania, right? So things that already in Bimania are fine. They're in the same genus. But the species like Conquistia uniflora have to get moved to the new genus, right? So the new genus is Bimania. Let's put that here first. And then we move uniflora into this genus. Okay. And I forget who that belongs to. So uniflora was named by Wagner in 1955. So you have to get Wagner the credit. And who make this combination? Who decided? Not me now. This one is Triplett, right? That guy who made the phylogeny. His name correctly. Okay. So Triplett is now the one who made this new combination. So the status of this one is Komnov. Okay. So that's a full destination. So now uniflora is in Bimania. Okay. So let's do another one here. So what about Conquistia multiflora? So they have to get moved to the new genus as well, right? So that's easy. That should be easy, multiflora. And Wagner named it before. And Triplett transfer them. Should be easy, right? And this happened in 2007. So I forget to tell you that this whole thing happened in 2007. But this is done, right, Ajahn? But no, actually, you forget one thing, right? Because Bimania multiflora already exists here. Da, ba, right? So and they look different. So now, if you're gonna transfer this to Bimania multiflora, you have the same name describing two different species. This is echidna all over again. Like multiflora, I have a name, is that pink flower with a long stamen. You can't have the same name. So this name is not valid because it's a homonym of Bimania multiflora, Wagner, 1947. This one get priority because it's come first. So, what do you do? Just like echidna, you find the new name, right? So the Bimania multiflora cannot be the name. So the solution is that the Conquistia multiflora get moved to Bimania and they have to come up with a new name completely. So I'm gonna give them new name now. It's like this Periflora. Peri also mean multiple. So in this case, you just get a new name for it to make sure that you avoid the homonym. So the first thing you should do is like you move them over, and if that combination is homonym with something else, you give him a new name. So the new name has also the status called nomen nova, nom nov. So new name. So have a new name to replace that. See, this, like, they have very few guiding principle, but the details just get like so they have to get a completely new name. Okay, but I'll put that in quotations for now, and we'll see what happened next. And then, so in 2010, 3 years later, an enterprising undergraduate called Misha, it could be you, Misha Olsen, no relation with Vanda, with the lady who played Vanda. She also Olsen, it's different Olsen, but no, this is fictional completely. So she used to do the same thing, but she get more sample, and she now including Hitchcockian into these studies, and she found very unnerving result. Just like, your advisor just make this a new combined genus, and now you found that Hitchcockia are now within. Once again, like the same nightmare happens. Like, the history. Oh, right. If the new name have to specify the author, yes. So you also have to specify the new author. That will be the tip. Sorry, I'm gonna write it down here because it's getting crowded here. So they have to come up with a new name, right? So let's say I can call it Perifora, and the new name would be by triplet. And notice that I did not put Wagner in there because this name completely new. It's like come up with a new name. So triplet come up with a new name. So you don't have to create it. Like there's a way to create it Wagner, but it's different format. I will show you later. Okay. But now there's the same problem happened again, right? Misha made her advisor really anxious, like, God, I thought I solved this problem 2 years ago. Now you make me new problems. So like, sure. And Misha decided, okay, everything point out that Hitchcockia, the white flower thing, actually in the same genus as Beemania. So what she does too. So the same thing here, right? So Beemania, and then the alba get moved into this species, like this genus. The alba come from Wagner back in the day, and now the one who doing the combination is Misha, so I have to put her name here. Misha is a first name, so you always use the last name, so Olsen. And this is also the combination novum. So good God, there's no previously named Beemania alba, otherwise have to come up with a new name again. And this happened more than once, not more than, like a lot. I found this to be a case a lot. It's like I think I found once a species get moved the genus 3 times, and every time it moved, it found a name that already happened. So what if Hitchcockia is older? Then, okay, let's move back here. Good God, right? Because it's only 2 years apart. Beemania is 47 and Hitchcockia is 49. So it is 1947, 1949. So if Hitchcockia genus is older, then yes, all become Hitchcockia exactly. And this cause more problem than you think. There's so many things that happened before. Like, for example, and I also like this is the reason why I guess get the slide and like hand out to you guys so late, because I'm like changing all this all the time. And then there's a new example from watermelon. And what we have watermelon forever, and they have the same name like Citrellus forever. And then there's a new name now. There's a taxonomic study and show that the Citrellus, the genus name of watermelon, is not the oldest name, and they have to change the genus name. And people, like all the agricultural people, were like, "What? No, we can't do that. Like, no. Like we use this name forever. Like you wanted us to change overnight?" It's like, and taxonomy is like, it's a correct thing to do. You have to change it. And Agriculture is like, no, no. So they meet halfway. So there's a proposal to conserve the name. So they conserve the watermelon name for the stability of the name. So you can put in the proposal into the journal and get accepted. So now the watermelon name it become conserved name for the stability. So they don't have to change it again and again. So now the watermelon had that name forever, despite the complicated story. So there's a lot of shortcut in this. One of those is conserved name. So I did not talk about that because that's a whole nother nightmare. So to was asking, is it a well now Wagner or triplet? So the person inside this have to look at the person who come up with Alba. So the person here refer to the owner of the base name here, the Alba. And if you look at the original name of Hitchcockia, is Hitchcockia Alba by Wagner in 1949. So Wagner is the owner of Alba, not Triplet. Triplet moved Conquistia to Birmania, not Triplet doesn't do anything with Hitchcockia. Or if we rename it Hitchcockia, it's still Wagner because Wagner is the owner of the name Hitchcockia Alba. Even if Hitchcockia is older. So if it's okay, so I see what you mean. So let's imagine for a second. So this is not the case, but if Hitchcockia is older, what happened, right? So gonna have a situation like this. It's gonna be a really complicated situation. So Bimane uniflora is Wagner triplet, right? At this point. So that's the most recent name because triplet moved uniflora from Conquistia to Birmania. But if it turns out that Hitchcockia is older, then you move it to Hitchcockia uniflora. The question is who get to be here. So let's say Took that this, so his name got here. He's the one who do the combination, so you get the name there. But who got in here? Is it Wagner or Triplet? The answer is Wagner, because Wagner owned the uniflora forever, and now Triplet's out of the picture because you make the wrong combination. Haha. So Triplet's gone. The Wagner's still there because Wagner is the owner of uniflora. So there are all these little details. Too bad. All your 10 years of work just got into because somebody figured out that 2 years older, but thank God that's not the case here. So there's a lot of this, like a loss of ownership, and people get upset about it because their name get erased forever. So we have to deal with a lot of sensitive soul in taxonomy. People got attached to their names, and yeah, it's not comfortable situation for sure. So okay, and then Misha did another thing, being good student. She did a lot of like herbarium and lab work. She like figured out that like now multiflora and rubiflora actually the same thing. So it's actually the same plants. It's just like slightly different colors. If you look at the pictures again, like, yeah, red and, pink and red is like, if you colorblind, it's all gray. It's like all the same. It's fine, So what do we do? So now we have 1947 and 1975, right? So this become the case of synonym. So this become synonym of multiflora, right? So now the name rubiflora is no longer exists. It just become part of multiflora. So now it's just one species instead of two. So that's how we solve problem like dendrochromosy. All right, anything else? So this is a really simplified version of it, and it's just like I was so tempted to bring the actual case like both of the case, but that might be too much for one day. And oh, do we add her name? No, actually no. So that's the thing. So this still Wagner. This name still Wagner because Wagner named it. But then the person who reduced the Ruby foras to be part of multifora is Misha. But Misha doesn't change any name. Misha just declare the status. Now that she the one that makes sure that Ruby fora is now equal to multifora. So she doesn't get her credit here because it's not a new name. It's existing name. She just said, oh, this one equal this. That's it. So Misha doesn't get this credit. So, but Misha did the right thing. Misha cleaned up the mess that Wagner made back in the day. Like Misha is a good girl. So Misha is the right person to work with. But she doesn't get credit for this. So too bad. But she get to write the paper describing this. So she get the credit that in that case. So synonymy is like really one of those tasks that take a lot of work, but you get almost no credit for that. Like people would admire you deep down inside, but you don't get to say it out loud. People would like, and synonymy is one of the hardest thing to track down because it's so, sometimes people do it really quickly, do it really sneakily. Like they just put one line in their papers and that's synonymization already. Like, whoa, really? What just happened? Yeah, it can be really sneaky. I'll show you in the example of Lady Gaga. So here's a highlight of my day. Probably not yours, but my the chance to talk about Lady Gaga in biology class. So Gaga fern used to be an uncool fern like other people, just normal looking fern from Costa Rica. So this is a really cute looking fern in Costa Rica. The old name is Kailantes. I use the word sensulado. Sensu means sense. Lato, not latte. Lato means broad in Latin. So in the broad sense. So if you have not noticed already, the taxonomists love using Latin word for no good reasons. We just like to sound fancy, like I like my pasta al dente. Like, why would you say that? Just like I want my pasta well cooked, like perfectly cooked, or like have to like add French word or Latin word to in that just how fancy. The same thing with taxonomy. It's like, oh, Calanta sensulato, like in the broad sense. So like everything that kind of look like calantas, just call them calantas. Like cat sensulato. Tiger is cat sensulato. Like, cat in the broad sense. So like all the bears are dog sensulato. You can say that. So from now on, you can just go around and like sensulato, which is opposite from sensu. Anyone want to guess? Stricto. In a strict sense, like really narrow definitions. So you see this word used a lot in taxonomic papers, like, oh, calenta sensu stricto or sensu lato in a broad sense or small sense. So like big definition or smaller definition. So this group used to call calenta sensu lato, like in the broad definition. And this guy, Fairvalley, he now lead investigator at Boyce Thompson in New York, USA, and he's a funny guy. Like, if you want to see how funny he is, you should follow his Twitter. It's like he crack up. It's just like random stuff. Such a fun guy, and he's Chinese, but he's like Canadian born Chinese, so he's not. Yeah, he's Canadian. Anyhow, so he did a phylogeny of this group, and he's like, Kailantes, that's not cool. That's like really F up genus. It's like not just paraphyletic, it's polyphyletic. It's like all over the place. Like what you guys call Kailantes is like so broad, like so broad, and it's like interspersed into many groups. So people just like, and this is so, and if you work with ferns, like ferns are one of the least studied group in the world, and people love ferns as ornamental plants, but taxonomically it's really a nightmare. Like fern taxonomy is one of the worst thing you can do with your time in life. they really F up, basically. Like fern taxonomies are rare. Like you found one, so like you hug them, like thank you very much. You do the world like the favor. Like, and Fairley is one of those people, and he found this in his phylogeny with 100% bootstrap, like clear separation of this genus. So like, you know what? I'm gonna call this genus Gaga. And this is real. I'm not like making like this up. This is from the real journal, this real thing, and it made a lot of news when it came out by Fairley, that guy. So he found that all the Gaga fern or former Calanthus share this Gaga synapomorphy. They have GAGA in their DNA. How convenient, right? So this is why we have to study an alignment, because like, ooh, Gaga, there's like Gaga box right there. It's a synapomorphism. It's a chair derived characters. Finally, something useful from the first half of the class. So they found this to be synapomorphy of all Gaga fern, and the name Gaga also happened to be in Latin already. You don't have to transform anything. It's already Latin. So you can see there's a section in all new species paper talk about etymology, the root of the words, and literally is named in honor of American pop singer, songwriter, performer Lady Gaga for her articulate and fervent defense of equality and individual expression of today's society. And this is a fancy word of saying that, but I know this is gonna haunt many of you, but this is a prothallus of the fern. So prothallus is the haploid stage of fern, and the funny thing is that because I mean Lady Gaga is such a symbol for LGBTQ plus community, and most of prothallus fern are actually bisexual by nature. They have the female part here, and that dot out there is a male part. So almost all ferns are bisexual, hermaphrodite, or whatever names you want to call them. And all fern, and including Gaga fern, is this. And it happens that Gaga have this outfit that look just like that. So when I teach botany at Kasetsart, I show this picture all the time, and they like crack up. And I show this picture on my exams, like, what is this? And the answer is not prothallus. The answer is Lady Gaga. So everyone remember the other half, not this half. So like, yeah, sometimes it helps, and it just like hiccups. Sorry, Riti, I didn't mean that. But I mean, you go read the interview by Fairway. It's so crack up. He was like, "Yeah, and the fern is bisexual, and it's like just such a symbol." And when we do the lab work, the PCR, we have her song on, and that's like in 2010. That's when the song is really like her song is everywhere. Like you cannot go a day in the summer without hearing Lady Gaga song everywhere. So they're like pipe it like a gra gra la la ra 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 like all the time. So I understand that because I was doing the lab work during that time too. So like I understand that pipetting to the poker face, it's pretty common. So that's her name. So, and Lady Gaga know about this, and she loved it. She was like, "Great! Now I was a mother of all ferns, yay!" She was pretty good spirited about that. So that's kind of fun part. So now we have this problem that we have to transfer all the Calanthus here into the new genus Gaga, and there's a lot of like mess that came out with this because there's a lot of combinations. So I'm gonna show you a few example, and this is the crop from the paper that published this. So you can look this up, and you can actually read the full paper. And there's a lot of details. And this is the typical taxonomic treatment of what happened. So I'm gonna walk you through new species and new combination in this case. So when you see the new species, so this would be SP North, come from species Nova. And many of these gonna look like a secret code between taxonomies, but it's not so secret. You can read this also, but it's really shorthanded, really abbreviated to the point that you kind of have to learn how to read this. So, okay, so this is a species name here, no problem, right? Species name. And this is the author. So this name Gaga germanata is completely new species. Nobody ever named that before. Named by Fairville and Winham. So you can have more than one person name it. You can have the whole group of people. So however you want. And you have to tell where the type specimen come from. Location of type specimen. So the rest of this is the description of the type specimen come from Costa Rica, from the province of Cartago, blah, 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 collected in June 18, 2012. And that's the location. So you can go track down this fern at that location. That's a GPS location. And the number is Fairville number 1520. So you can go look up this specimen. And the holotype is this number is the holotype. And Duke here is the deposit herbarium or museum. So this is where you keep them. If you want to see this Gaga germanata, you have to go to Duke, which is the university in North Carolina. And the isotypes, the duplicate that collect at the same time as Fairville 1520 are deposited at CR, NIB, MOUC, USK, NY. It's like, what are these people? Like, all of these are the abbreviation of herbarium. This is not your like make up acronyms for something. This is official acronyms. If like CR is National Costa Rica Herbarium, INB is Institute of Biology of Costa Rica, MO is Missouri, UC is University of California at Berkeley, US is US National Herbarium, K is Q in England, and NY is New York Botanical Garden. How do I know this? Because I work with these people. So I have this in the back of my mind. P is Paris, and in Thailand is BKF, Bangkok Herbarium Forestry. So this is one of those things that like when you work in the field, like you recognize this this acronym immediately. I don't expect you to memorize this at all. There's so many, and there's a database that lists all this, so you can look it up. Where is this? So one of the first thing that when I have students working on this kind of topic is that I have them look up where the type specimens are, because when you might want to compare that. So the latest one that we work with, the type specimen is in Paris, and my student, ooh, that does mean I have to go to Paris to look it up. Like, it does mean that, but do we have the money to go there, or do we have the vaccine to go there? Like, not now. Like that's the idea, and he really want to go to Paris, so like I have to find the money for him to go to Paris to look at one specimen and come back. It's like, sure, you're gonna look at them for 2 minutes, and then like that's what happened. The taxonomists are like, oh, I have to go to Paris to look at the type specimen for 5 minutes, and then another 5 days in Louvre, in Eiffel Tower, and blah, 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 have cheese and wine and all that. So next time you see like, oh yeah, I have to go to work, and like, oh yeah, sure. Where are your type specimen? Paris, New York, London, and Q, like, oh, that sounds like a good destination. Oh, no, it's all for work, like, the good things are almost all good herbariums are in the major cities. Like the big ones are Paris, New York, Paris, New York. Where else? There's one in Edinburgh, which is beautiful city. So, yep. All the fund provider knows. Yeah, they know. That's why they don't give us money. Like you barely get money to go see the type specimen. What we do instead is like a consortium of taxonomists, and they provide funding for specimen collection visit specifically just for this. So, but they provide really little money, mostly just the airfares, and you have to pay for the rest of your own. So yeah, there's a lot of traveling involved but these days people do the electronic version of it. So they scan the specimen up online and you can look it up online. You don't have to go there anymore. So, and last but not least, this is the diagnosis that I'm talking about, the description, the first description of the species. Back in the day, this have to be done in Latin, completely Latin. Yeah, it's not quite the same thing as the real thing, but I think there's a lot of benefit of electronic version of it, because the Thai specimen, sometimes some of them are really old, like 300 years old, and you just don't want like random people, walking into that 300-year-old specimen, right, and look it up. It's just like poke, poke, poke. Oops, you break it, and like, uh-oh, now gone the reference material of cannabis. Like, the cat did that. I did not do that. Like, the cat, meow. There's no cat in herbarium, so, but can't blame the cats. So it allows broader people without carbon footprint on the air, like on the air travels, and also preserve the specimen. And you can zoom in, like if you just do the good scan, you can zoom in really closely, and you can actually. There's good pro and cons, but it's always better to be in Paris to look at the specimen and have cheese and wine, and oh God, Paris. Anyhow, okay, enough for me thinking about how I want to be in Paris, looking at the Thai specimen, which is a legitimate reason to be in Paris for sure. Okay, but majority of these calendars actually are now transferred to this new genus, Gaga, right? So we have Gaga epicea, which is used to be here, Calentus epicea, right? That's the old name. So this old name is called basionym, base name. So base name is published by Mikkel. So Mikkel get moved into parentheses here, right? And because we transfer the epicea to Gaga directly. And who did that? Fairville and Winham make this combination nova. So he combined epicea from Calentus with Gaga. And Mikkel published this in Memoir of New York Botanical Garden in 2004. And the type specimen is from Mexico. And the specimen is from New York. And exclamation point, oh, New York, oh, like, what about New York? Why is it so exciting? So this is a shorthand. When you see, oh, like the exclamation point, it means I've seen it. So Fairville went to New York and see that specimen. That's why he said, oh, I've seen it. So that's a short way. It's like a funny quote. I don't know who came up with that first. It's really funny. It's like, so he's seen a holotype in New York already. He confirmed that is belong to Gaga. So I've seen it. Yeah. The same thing here. He also go to CAS, which is California Academy of Science, to see this. So he went to California and see that specimen already too. So he's seen both holotype and isotype, and he pretty confirmed that it's belong to that new genus here. But he didn't go to Texas because he didn't owe the Texas. So he's seen the specimen from New York and California Academy of Science. But he know there's an isotype at Texas as well, but he didn't go see them. So that's how you read between the line. And that specimen is Nisome 7716. There's a holotype in New York. Yep. So actually, there's a lot of people. Most people like I do, like we put this specifically in like travel to see the specimen, to visit the herbarium, $200,000, first class business. They were like, nope. So sometimes they like, some funders are like, they like, that's like easy reason. Like, I know that, like, Yeah, but like sometimes it's not that fancy. For example, like when I was working in Chicago, New York is like a flight away. It's not that fancy, and it's not. I mean, and sometimes like I work at a film museum, and film museum have a lot of Thai specimen. So for me to go to see the Thai specimen is going upstairs. Like, yeah, Thai specimen upstairs, yeah. Sometimes it's basement, yeah, basement. So it's like sometimes it's not that fancy. Um, so unfortunately, most of the funders, most people who decide on funding are not taxonomists, because you can see how long it takes to do taxonomy work. So we don't get a lot of paper published, so we don't get to be one of those fancy big name scientists. Or the molecular biologists do that. So like that's why they don't cut our funding, because they don't get in trouble like us. So I'm maybe a bit too emotional here. So anyhow, all right, let's look at another more complicated case here. So this is a Gaga angustifolia. Angus mean big. Oh yeah, never mind. Okay, so inside joke. Okay, so Angus mean big, folia mean leaf. So, and this one is a new combination again by Fairley and Winham. This new combination, and the basionym is here. So this one is basionym. It's by Kunt. So Kunt is probably a German guy. So get moved to the, but here's a fun part, because this name angustifolia is used more than once. Use here, and use here. So there's this specific, oh, actually four times. So this species of fern used to be in genus Calentus, Allosaurus, Onychium, and Pelea. Like what? So basically this particular fern, this one fern have four names before. Yep, have four names before. But then you look at, so it used to be in Calentus, Allosaurus, Onychium, and Pelea. They're all angustifolia. But you look at that year, 1815, 1836, and then 1848, and then 1867. They're all in 1800s. And then that's the oldest name, right? So this one get the priority. So that's the only basionym. That's why Kun name is up there, because he's the owner. But there's several iterations. There's several attempts to move this name. For example, Priscil here tried to move it to Allosaurus, and Kunz tried to move it to Onychium, and then Baker tried to move it to Pelea, not successfully. But then the oldest available correct name is go back to Kun, belong to Calentus, and then Fairley used this as a base to move into Gaga. Okay, so it's a little more complicated, but then the original name is go back to Calentus. And also there's two more names down here with no reason. Like, what is this? So this one is synonyms. The author, like Fairway and Winham, look at the specimen and decided that this species, Allosaurus angustifolia, variation minus is a same thing as this. And same thing is Calentus venusta or rata is actually the same plant. So now these two other species that recognized as a separate one now are synonym of now just one species, Gaga angustifolia. So now it's getting really, really complicated. And let me tell you that this is two of the easiest example in that paper. There's a lot more complicated cases out there, and You can spend entire career doing this, and once you become good at this, you like people will sought after you because only a few people really understand the rules well enough to do this. And in Thailand, I think for angiosperm, I think I can count them in both of my hands here. Like there's less than 10 people who really understand this thing to the point that like he can be like, he actually get invited to be on that panel to vote on the nomenclature code. So he went there every time he vote on them. That's how much he understand the code. So he one of those governing body of the international code. So there's one person in Thailand, he's a permanent member on that. So why we name Calientus tugaga? Because we go back to that that trees, and they found that Calientus in the broad sense are highly polyphyletic. Right? There's like many groups, and all of this used to be Calientus, and now like yeah, Tube is right. He's a splitter. He's like, well, he can decide to be like, you know what, guys, let's all this big crazy group be Calientus. He can do that, but he feel like this group here look different from the rest of former Calientus. So he decided to go the other route. He splitting. He's like, you know what? These two group of Calientus different enough, and there's the DNA of this chunk contain that Gaga box that I showed earlier. So there's good enough reason for us to split this into a new genus. So if you doing this group, you can decide the other way around. You can say, you know what? I don't like this solution. I want to lump. I can call this whole thing Calientus and be done with it. As the older name is already existing, you just move a bunch of this thing into the Calientus too. You could do that. And this happened with other things too. So now, yes, and Calientus still existing, but now there's like former Calientus, you know, think of, this gonna sound really old. If anyone know Destiny Child, Beyonce former girl group. So Beyonce used to be in girl groups. If you don't know that, there's 3 people. The song Survivor, are you survivor, are you the future, that song, really old song, but Beyonce used to be in that girl group, and then she split off to be a separate solo. So the other 2 are now fading into the background. So just like that, Calientus used to be one big genus, and now it's splitting into smaller Calientus and newer Gaga. So it's now splitting into 2 genera. And once again, there's no right or wrong answer into this thing. One more example here. Okay, so this is a fun one. Okay, so now it's Gaga Kaufusii, it's probably German at some point. So there's 2 names here, the Calientus viscosa and Calientus Kaufusii. This one in, so I'm gonna write here. So there's viscosa and Kaufusii. These 2 names refer to the same specimen, same thing, basically, same plant. But this name happened to 1818. This name happened in 1839. So, priority, right? First come, first serve, right? You should have picked this name viscosa. It should have been Gaga viscosa, but you see here, nom illegale. What? Nomen illegum. Illegal names. So this guy Link, who named viscosa, did it wrong. He did not do the valid publications, and people found that out. It's like, no. People found that out in 1833. It's like, this is not the right name. So Kunz come around and give the right name, Kufosi. So that's why Kunz is going into that parenthesis, not link. So this one, even though it's priority, this one is gone because it's illegal. So even though they have priority by date, but as I said, priority come with the valid publication. Why is it illegal? This is like one of those like snake game, we keep going. So it's illegal because I think the name Viscosa is repeating with something else in that genus already, and I think the most common reason, I'm sorry, I did not look for the specific reason why the Viscosa is illegal. Most of the time, the old name getting illegal because they either not providing type specimen or they did not provide the diagnosis. There's no description. So like these two are two most popular reasons for the illegal name. So they found that this is illegal, and Kafosi is the first available. Yeah, we need to cite them because sometimes this is allow us to go back in time, because there might be people between 1818 and 1839 who talk about Viscosa without knowing that it's a wrong name. So there might be people in that period who use that name. So every time we see this name come up, we know that, oh, it's part of this name now. So that's why we have to cite them as a way to recognize that this name now is part of this. So I mean, not all taxonomists are this careful. Fairville is one grand example of like really careful taxonomic work. There's some people who just like gloss over. Yes, actually, Peter did point out a really good point. If the author did not publish it validly, you can use X as well. So there's another option here. You can do Gaga Viscosa X link. Oh, it's not Kofushi, sorry. X link and Fabili here. So X meaning link, invalidly published. So so you can do this sometimes, but like using the word X to say that, oh, they kind of do that, but it's not correctly. But in this case, there is a better available name that correct that. So Kunz could just have used Viscosa. It could have been, Kunz could have done this, but he decided to go with the new name. He decided to give a completely different name, and that name become better names. So Fairville decided to go with the more correct name instead of using the wrong and use X, which is, I mean, there's a different decision and judgment to be used. And I think because, and this is something that you can go dig between the line here, that basically if Kunz decide in 1839 that that name is really illegal and we shouldn't use it, should forget about it, he can say that. And that's like, and if you go read that paper, they're going to explain the reason why they do that in Latin, probably in 1839, which is always painful because sometimes I don't know why they do that. They just like write in shorthands and like just exploding. So yeah, we can use X in case that, so there's a case that like Kunz never did this. It's only Viscosa available. There's no other options. You can use Viscosa. Yeah. So if there's no other work, if we don't have this option, then we probably go with this and use this instead. But because we have better option, we're not gonna use this. So the whole X thing is really, really annoying because yeah, people just, I mean, taxonomists get accused of like providing work for themselves. You know what I mean? So they keep like creating this crazy rule only to keep themselves at work. So I kind of agree, but at the same time, the rule exists for a reason, because there are people like this who try to sneak in, you know, like not doing played by rules and try to conserve the name and all that. So long story. So anyhow, and the final one, this also now the synonym. And the reason that the Glandulifera didn't get used as a new name because it's 1949, which is later than 1939. So it's a junior synonym. It's like synonym that come later, so that Courvoisieri get picked as a right name. So hopefully you see that from this example that picking the right name can be really, really painful. And like, this is almost like detective work. I think in some ways I find it really fun. It's like you kind of dig into the history, like what happened, and most of the cases in the real world are really complicated, and you find that 5 layers of transfer over and over and over, and this detective works, and most of my students hate it. It's like, why do we have to do this? Like, well, you know, it's left like this for 300 years, so it's time to clean it up. Like, and that's our job to clean it up, you know. They're like, okay, fine. And they like go back to work, and they're like, Ajahn, I found another 10 synonyms. Like, oh, have fun with that. And just and this keep us in business, unfortunately. So all right, so enough of me talking and walking you through this crazy world of taxonomy. So now it's your turn.